Fail and bomb and gag and fail and bomb.
Yalla, let's go.
Good afternoon. It's the final hour of Middays with Mannix and Mannix here on this Mannix Monday. Boy, did I really make some people mad on the text line by what I said going into break. And to them, all I'll say is Brady still playing football at the moment? No, he's not. So from there, we will dive into talking football with former college football coach Malik Hall, Penn, UMass, and Bates among his stops. And he's gracing us with his presence once again here on this Mannix Monday. Malik, thanks so much for joining us once again. We actually had, again, two very competitive and entertaining football games.
Hello, hot coffee again. I mean, listen, the football guys are blessing us with great football in the last few football games of the year. I'm just excited to say, like, I've been a part of it. My eyes did not leave the tube. And so that's a good thing, considering these were like barn burners all the way to the end.
Yeah, most certainly barn burners all the way to the end. I suppose we should take on the AFC Championship game first here, Malik. Kansas City, for one half, they looked like they had that wrapped up. They were going to just roll over the Bengals, and something happened there. I mean, I guess it was the decision to try to, get that touchdown at the end of the half that didn't work out. So, I mean, do you see that as the turning point of the football game?
Not really.
No?
That actually showed you that they were still gas on. The foot was still down. They were not trying to just kind of walk away into the half. In fact, kudos to Natty stopping that, because they go into the half with another touchdown. You're kind of asking yourself, like, does Cincinnati even – they're not showing the Cincinnati of weeks past. They've only put up, 10 points up to that point. And so you're saying, like, if they give up a touchdown going into the half, this might get away from them. They did a great job getting a stop, making the go into half. Now, when they came out of the half, you almost saw a completely different team defensively and offensively. They started to let Shotgun Burrow open it up. I still will admit, I thought they were really trying to chase the ball. I thought they did a great job in just allowing Burrow just to do what he does, distribute the ball. They relied on the run game at the end of the game, which they have not done. I think my number one complaint about them were they did not hand the ball to Joe Mixon enough for me to feel like that they could close out a game at the end. And what do you know? He rips off the 15-plus yard run that they need to go and kick that field goal. Had 21 carries. Looking back at it, I think the early part of the game was to limit how many times Kansas City was going to be able to just go down the field. Kansas City was putting together drives like a 12-play drive, a 9-play drive. Like, these were another 10-play drive. These were long drives that took time. And meanwhile, I think Cincinnati was playing the time game in the first half and opened it up in the second half. So shout out to the Bengals, to all my Bengals fans. I doubled down on it last week. And, hey, what do you want me to say other than y'all going to the Super Bowl?
Well, now let's talk a little bit about what we've had a lot of discussions on today about the coaching, because I think, again, Andy Reid now 3-6 total in championship games. He's 2-2 in them with, of course, Kansas City 1-2 overall in Super Bowls. It just is starting to show to me that he can't consistently enough win the big game. I wanted your opinion on that, because I know a lot of people giving, Pat Mahomes heat today, but I feel like Andy Reid almost is getting a pass, and I think he's just as to blame for this game and this failure as Pat Mahomes is.
Oh, man, I think every head coach will try to take the loss and own it, because ultimately they're leader of the program. The next person to take the heat is the quarterback, because they're the face of the program. But big picture, I don't know that this was less about them volleying the game up, really, than the Bengals actually going to beat them. They had to go beat them. The last interception, Like, that was a in-a-bucket throw that the safety played over the top. The trailing defender who was out of place, the ball bumbled into his hands. Like, those are the kind of plays in margin of error that you have to force, because Kansas City isn't going to just make the error. Now, in terms of Coach Reed, guys, there was a time that if you won a Super Bowl, you were a lifer, okay? If you went to a Super Bowl, you were a lifer, okay? Now, he has won a Super Bowl and have gone to 3, as you mentioned, Tay. But I think this team is still well-oiled if they can keep it together. Andy Reid, I think, knows he's a very seasoned coach. It is extremely hard to win in the NFL, let alone to win a Super Bowl. And if there's any grumblings about that, like we watched the Pats, who has arguably the greatest Super Bowl winner, the greatest coach to ever coach on the field. Hasn't been back since he lost Brady, you could probably argue, and he might not go back. But, yeah, look, Andy is owning it because he's the top. But you heard Patty Holmes say, look, those two picks at the end, those are safe plays. There's a screen, don't throw a screen pick, okay? And then the last one is just like, come on, man. Like, don't do that either. So, yeah, man, and those were considerably moderate play calls from Andy. But in years past, you could probably argue how he managed the clock with Donovan McNabb. I just don't think that was the situation. I think the Bengals had to earn every little bit of it, and by forcing plays to make them, I don't necessarily think it was a Kansas City mess up more than it was a Cincinnati victory.
Which, kind of brings me to a point I was going to ask you about, because I know I questioned the play calling in overtime on offense for Kansas City. You incomplete the first pass, you almost get picked off on the second one, and then rather than, maybe doing, a quick little out to get yourself the 10 yards, you throw it 40 yards downfield and get it picked off. To me, I question that a little bit, but, you mentioned Kansas City is a high-octane offense. They kind of want to put the pedal to the floor no matter what. So I guess they were just being true to their identity, but I'd love your thoughts on overtime offensive play calling for the Chiefs.
I tell you what, 90% of the country, when the Chiefs got that ball, thought the game was over, especially considering how the overtime games have gone last week. It was like, oh, here we go, this overtime rule again, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have to play defense. And because the Chiefs were not going to try to run the ball, nickel and dime it out, get in field, that's not who they are. And, in fact, shout out to the defensive coordinator there, a New York guy. Listen, to keep the Chiefs in front of you is the main goal here because they can get behind you very fast. And being that they make the Chiefs nickel and dime this out and not make some really extravagant plays like that, like, hats off to the scheme part. But when they got into overtime, if the Chiefs did anything but air it out, everyone would have been disappointed or shocked, because that's not their MO. They're running back by committee. McKinnon showed his tail. I'm thinking in the first half, they ran the ball much more than I expected them to. And so, I expected Mahomes to have at least 40 attempts. He had 39. He had 2 picks to go with that. And in overtime, that last pick, again, I think that was more the Cincinnati defenders stepping it up. They sacked Mahomes a few times in the late end. This was everything Cincinnati had to do to win. They did. And Kansas City is very high octane, and that's what they showed you coming out into the overtime. And, for whatever it's worth, defense wins games, guys, and it also gets you to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note, we'll turn it over to the NFC side of things. A little bit of a defensive battle early on before things opened up. Obviously, 17 points there in that second quarter. What are your initial thoughts on the LA Rams being able to overcome the 49ers 20-17 yesterday?
To all of my Detroit Lions fans in Maine, which I know is a illustrious group, that win goes to us too. Okay? All right? Because Matty Stafford he proved his worth. He proved his worth. He distributed the ball to Odell, I think 6-7 times. Odell had 100 yards, okay? Coop does what he does, show up big, okay? And the game, I can't think of the kid's name, but the game would have been over if he catches the seam up the middle on him. It just went off his tips. And so, I think San Francisco, what they tried to do is keep the game close, keep it in a possession kind of situation. And here's the other thing. When you don't make the play, that you have to make to close the game out, if the team is worth anything, they come back and show you that you made the mistake by not putting the nail in the coffin. Number 3 had a chance to put the nail in the coffin, and he dropped that pick. And I think he's probably beating himself up this morning, if he even slept. But the San Francisco 49ers did everything they did. They got the ball to their playmakers, and they kept Jimmy G clean until the end. Until the end, that defense revved up, and they got to him. And he made Jimmy G mistakes towards the end, and it cost him. But I think, again, what a game, man. And Jimmy G didn't play great, guys. He didn't blow his socks off, but what he did do, he kept them in the ball game. He had 2 touchdowns. And, they got a lot of weapons, and they kept the ball in their weapons' hands. Samuel played well. I thought I would see those tight ends and fullbacks a little more involved because how much they wanted to run the ball. But, hey, man, shout out to the 49ers for playing a great game. But ultimately, I think the Rams showed up, and the defense closed it out. And that's the consistent thing about both games, guys. I'm a defensive coach by trade and by the love and by all of that, right? Because offensive guys are Jedis. Everyone wants to be a Jedi. The defense had to get it done. The dark side got it done this week on every front, whether it had been a sack, forced fumble, or pressure to a turnover. And 49ers had a chance for the defense to close it out with the pick that Matt Stafford showed his that shadow of Detroit Lions showed up, and they didn't make him pay for it. And he was able to recover, and the Rams were able to recover.
Yeah, they most certainly were. I'm interested, too, since San Francisco and Kansas City was the Super Bowl matchup 2 seasons ago. Which one do you think is closer to getting back?
Ooh, that's because of the salary cap, the draft, the trade, there's a lot that has to go on in between now and next season. The nature of San Francisco and their quarterback question, are they going to keep Jimmy G? Are they going to move on from him? That's going to be enough noise that whoever sits in that seat next has to overcome that. And if it's who they have on the bench right now, look, I think he can play. I think that kid can play. But to say that they're going to make their push to the championship round game again, I think the Chiefs are more primed and ready. Holmes is young. I think they'll get the deal with Kelsey done. Same with Debo, although I think they have a few Debos in training just in case he gets gully and want a bigger deal or want to leave. So I really would say the Chiefs are much more closer to bringing it back again.
Well, and I want to ask about another player, Brandon Ayuk, a guy who early on in the season wasn't much involved in this offense for San Francisco. By the end of it, though, really a big key of it. What do you think his role will be moving forward, especially with the unknown at quarterback in San Francisco?
That's all playing a part. Look, if you think about teams who did not get the quarterback situation right, they didn't, regardless of what happened the year before. I hate to go. Think about the Vikings. They made a run the year of, and they knew they were off low in their guy. Whether because of injury, he showed up, and they had it right. They brought in another guy, I think, which is Cousins, right? And he showed up. They've been competitive. I think what makes this a little different is this is a unique offense in the grand scheme of it. Like, again, I said it a few times. I think they're a wing T offense. So a lot has to do with the timing and decision making. And I think you can find that out there. But if they don't, this is not going to move the same.
Yeah, real interesting here. I know we'll probably get a lot more into this Super Bowl matchup next week for sure with you, but interesting that I think we've got two very, very young coaches and two quarterbacks who are in their first Super Bowl, so one of them's going to win their first. Just I guess tell me about that aspect of things here.
Yeah, I think on the hoof you would say McVay has the fighting edge. He's been to a Super Bowl. I think all of the pieces that they've put in place, both teams put every piece in place to get to the dance. And, for whatever it's worth, you look at the Bengals and you look at their next town rival, very similar situations. You thought they were a quarterback away, and comes to find out who's a better quarterback with the better club. And some of those pieces from Cleveland came over to the Rams and increased the status of the Rams. So when I think of just the organization, both clubs have played very well and they operated at a high level of efficiency because they didn't do a lot of missing with players. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I think the edge goes to the Rams just for the sake of and Tay, you've mentioned it. Look, this dude Cup, if he's not the MVP, I don't know what to say. I don't know when the last time a receiver was the MVP, but between him and I know Chase won't get it. Has a rookie ever made the MVP? But to have receivers over 2,000 yards is unbelievable. Okay, mm-hmm. And for one kid to do it with a new quarterback, both kids to do it with new quarterbacks, because Chase is a rookie. And Cup is his first year playing with Stafford. I think that's unbelievable. But if I had to give you the edge, I'm going with the Rams because that defense, I think, is something to be dealt with. And the Bengals have an issue with keeping Burrow off the ground. And now you have Von Miller and Big Nasty Donald in the middle. That's gonna get ugly. But outside of that, they got enough weapons to get rid of the ball fast enough, force feed Jamar. But you also got Ramsey that I would be interested to see if they go match him up with Jamar. And that would be the showcase to watch if they do that. If they take it throwback like they would have Deion follow their best receiver, if they do that with Ramsey because he's physical, he's like a safety too. So if he puts him in the box, he'll be in the box. That would be interesting. So I'm excited. Let me ask you this guy's question. Okay. I know everyone's worried about Tom Brady retiring. But if you take a deeper dive into signs, didn't Josh McDaniels just leave?
Sounds like he's going up your alley, Jeff.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be just serendipitous that Tom Brady just runs his offense and they get the pieces they need to kind of double down in Vegas? No pun.
Makes total sense to me. I've brought that thought up. In fact, that would not surprise me at all.
Yeah, so that's why the retirement space, I think that came out because I think he's gonna move this, and I also think, listen, Josh, for whatever it's worth, New England, the land of New England fans, anticipated Josh being the next head coach of the Pats. Period.
Yep.
If for Josh to make this decision, knowing that he's already reneged on before, like that wasn't just these guys are calculated guys, and he's probably had a conversation with TB12 over there. And I was
going to say,
I think,
yeah, I think you're getting. I really do think his next quarterback's probably either going to be Brady or Garoppolo. I mean, that's kind of the way I see it going.
Yeah, and I think Carr is a dude. Don't get me wrong. I just think for Josh to take that job, it was not because Carr is there.
No, I agree. I agree with you. I mean, we had a caller even say, they thought maybe he would have learned from Denver, maybe not to try to be so hands-on, but, basically telling the owner, well, I'm not coming unless you bring my buddy as the GM too. So I think you're already seeing he's probably already told them, what he's looking for at that. And to your point, Malik, the only other NFL MVP as a rookie ever, you're probably going to know this name, Hall of Famer, Cleveland Browns running back Jim Brown as a 21-year-old during the 57 season. He's the only ever rookie to win NFL MVP.
Hello. Well, I'll tell you what. This Jamar Chase kid, the only other receiver to do 2,000 yards in a season was Randy Moss. And we know what that looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah.
Okay? He revitalized the old Randall Cunningham and a Chris Carter. Now, they didn't win the Super Bowl, but that was something to see. This kid is electric. But, guys, I love Mondays with the Mannix brothers. You know that.
Oh, yeah. Looking forward to another one next week.
With the Super Bowl? How about it, guys? How about it?
All right. Malik Hall, former college football coach, thanks for joining us again today.
Thanks, guys. Keep it local.
All right. Keeping it local indeed. That is Malik Hall, former college football coach, Bates, Penn, UMass, amongst others. We're going to open the phone lines up, and I'm going to respond to some of these texts here about Brady. First off, I didn't say he sucks. I said for him, he sucks. That's really kind of where I was going with that. But we'll chop this up when we come back. It's Middays with Mannix and Mannix.